The Torah tells us when it's come to a fruit, a certain produce, we have years of limitations. Meaning a person who planted a seed, you see a tree, we are forbidden to eat the produce from the tree for the first 3 years. The question is, sometimes there are those who does harkava, which means they combine old and young trees or young produce together, and the question is, when it's come to a certain Nedarim, since this tractate we discuss is a Tractate Nedarim, dealing with the law of vows, if a person prohibited himself, for example, certain trees or certain fruits, what do you do if there is a combination of two, young and old? The same is general halachot that involve with bitul. Bitul, there is a lot of applications in halacha. If you remember, we talk in the basar bechalav, when you have a combination of meat and milk, the Torah prohibited us to combine, how far you go with a little drop of milk with a big pot of meat. So there are many points when it's come to bitul, which means it's abrogated, it's annulled by the majority. Nullification by the majority. But here we, when it's come to Nedarim, we also have implication with Hilchot Bitul. So we are on page 57, Tractate Nedarim, Mishnah, Konam perot ha'elu alai, one who says, this produce, this fruit, is konam, it's meaning it's like expression of vow upon me. So, or he said konam hen al pi, so they are konam upon my expression, my mouth. Konam hen lefi, if he said that they are konam to my mouth. So Tosfot said, and I quote, Velo garsinan peirot elu, meaning he used the word ha-elu with hey, and then he said, Asur bechilufehen uvegidulehen. He is not only forbidden to have any source of benefit from their original and the consequences, but even if you change it, let's see, Tosfot said, the keivan dehezkir konam stam, since the person said the general term of konam, velo hezkir achila, he didn't mention, is a different phases, different expression of konam. He did not specify that applies solely for eating. Asar atzmo, he prohibited himself, ben bechilufehen, ben begidulehen. So he prohibited upon himself the exchange of them and things that grow from them. So again, the idea of Nedarim, we said it many times, you go by the language of people, how far you go. Since a person said it in a very general term, he did not express it, he didn't say this specifically, then you go further and said, if someone, for example, switch them, sell them this produce with others, take the money, that money is prohibited to drive benefit. Because the moment you forbidden an item, so that item and whatever exchange from the item, meaning either the money you get from the exchange or you exchange by the consequence of the item. Soon you see, if you take that item and you plant it as a seed, and now there's a produce that come out of the seed, the tree coming out, the fruits coming out. It's also prohibited. The moment you said, generally speaking, over this item, the Mishnah said that's applied to any result that comes out for this item. Now, the Mishnah continues and said, there is another phase when you use the term uvegidulehem. As we said many times, there is a concept that's called consecrated item. we mention always, a fellow donated his car to yeshiva, to shul, to something. That car, from that moment onwards, is not his. It's consecrated. It belonged to the whatever you gave it. So therefore, you cannot derive any form of benefit from that consecrated item. Now, it means further on, if you remember the Gemarrah in Sukkah 40 said it, that even you take that item and you substitute it for something. For example, you sell it, you take the money. Or you use something that comes out of that item, it's also part of that general term that it's consecrated item. So here, even you said that gidulei hekdesh, that fruits that come of something that it's total consecrated, the prohibition against driving benefit, it's only rabbinic. That's what we study in Tractate Me'ilah, page 13. But here, as we said again and again, when it's come to Nedarim, the law of vows, if you remember the last Shabbat, Parashat Matot, we study in the morning the law of vows. Remember, so when it's come to this term of vow, we have to be so careful, because when it's come to these items, you said an expression, it's already commitment that follow the whole set of laws with that commitment. In Judaism, we said it many times, whatever comes out of your mouth, you have to follow. It's the last week parsha. Moshe Rabbeinu, if you remember, was talking to the 2.5 tribes that want to dwell in the eastern Jordan. You remember that? And after negotiation, they promised to be the vanguard, the forefront of the future war before they conquer the land. So by the end, Moses said to them, "V'hayotze mipichem," whatever comes out of your mouth, you have to follow your word. So it's, in short, we take very seriously those expressions. Now we go a different direction. How about if someone said, "She'ani ochel," "She'ani to'em," he said, fruits are konam upon me in regard to my eating. Or if he said, it's for that reason, shani to'em, that I will taste it. So they said, mutar, it is permitted for him to partake bechilufeihem, its replacement, whatever you replaced, uvegidulehem, and anything that grows from them. Why? Because it's not part of the produce that he prohibited himself. So here we learn another concept that is called gidulei gidulim. Let's use the easy term: grandparents, children, and grandchildren. Okay? You're planting sometimes, and you have the produce, and you have the produce that come out of that produce. So here, what we're saying that the produce is a problem. But since the produce you did not prohibit it upon yourselves, so even you don't use the produce, yet the produce of the produce you can use. Bedavar shezar'o kaleh, if you talk about the produce that seed does not decompose, so that's you don't have the prohibition of their growth, only if he said clearly that that's what he intended. Aval bedavar she'en zar'o koleh, those items that seeds do not cease after it's sown, afilu gidulei gidulim, it is prohibited for him to benefit even from the growth of the growth, asurin. Why? Because anything that grows from that, it's part of the original produce that prohibited. That's the Ran said. Rashi tells us in Tractate Psachim something important we should remember when it's come to produce. Rashi tried to say that here we intend to speak about onion. Can someone explain to us what's the difference in the produce between onion and other produce, the way that it's grown? Anyone familiar? Remember we studied it in Tractate Pesachim? If you look carefully at the onion, it's growth in both ways. The original seed and the, how do you call it? The bulb. Thank you. The bulb also puff up. So you have reality of onion, it's not expunge, it's not disappear, it's growth in both ways. The shoresh, the root, Rashi said, is growth, and here Rashi said that's what they meant in this Mishnah, gidulei gidulim, the produce of the produce, because when it's come to onion, Rashi tells us it's a good example of produce of the produce, because again, if you look at the onion and you analyze, this one is different than other produce, because the way that the onion growth is the growth of the root and it's growth of other parts of the onion. Not everyone agree with Rashi, but it's a famous Rashi in Tractate Pesachim. Anyway, another point that relates to these rulings, ha'omer le'ishto, we said many times that when it's come to husband-wife, if you remember Joe, we studied it on Shabbos about, in Parshat Matot, about husband-wife, when the husband said something to his wife, and basically he can, in one hand, abrogated her commitments. By the same token, in a relationship of husband-wife, sometimes those type of vows and oath is a serious problem. So here's an example. If someone said to his wife, "Haomer li'ishto konam ma'aseh yadaich alai," meaning your handicraft, whatever the produce that you made, so the hand itself, it's not. It's the chalot neder, meaning that he intend to speak about the produce that comes out of her labor. That's the one said. Konam hen alpi, which is they are konam upon my mouth, konam hen lefi, asur bechilufehen uvegidulehen. So he's forbidden any exchange of them, and also the thing that grows from them. Why? Because even you have exchange of her labor, exchange like a barter, like a substitute of cash or something like that, or substitute with some other thing that carries a value. Since he specified the labor, the handicraft of a specific person, so it meant to say that he is forbidden himself like a consecrated item, and therefore even chilufei hekdesh, even something exchanged for the consecrated item, is prohibited upon him. However, if someone said she'ani ochel, she'ani tohem, he said that I will eat, meaning that he expresses that he said that the work of you handed in regard to my eating, in regard to my tasting, mutar bechilufehen, allowed to receive an exchange for them, ubegidulehen, the thing that grow from them. Now, all this idea is bedavar shezar'o kaleh, which means that apply to anything that the produce, that seed, decomposes. Aval davar she'ein zar'o kaleh, but if the produce of those seed does not decompose, afilu gidulei gidulin asurin, even that grows from things that grew from them is forbidden, because whatever grows, it's combined from the produce, the original produce, that forbidden. שאת עושה איני אוכל עד הפסח, if a person said to his wife, what you make I'll not eat until Pesach, שאת עושה איני מתכסה בו עד הפסח, whatever you make I'll not wear it until Pesach, עשתה לפני הפסח, מותר לאכול ולהתכסות אחר הפסח. If she made something before Pesach, so obviously it's permitted to eat and wear it after Pesach. However, שאת עושה עד הפסח, but what you make until Pesach I'll not eat, ושאת עושה עד הפסח איני מתכסה, what you make until Pesach I will not wear, עשתה לפני הפסח, if she made anything that she made before Pesach, אסור לאכול ולהתכסות בו אחר הפסח. He cannot wear it or eat it until after Pesach. Why? Because in the language that he said ad Pesach, which means you define, you make hagdara, you make a very clear point that you have a framework of time. So the big question is, again, if you circumscribe the time of the prohibition, if you limited, that's one thing. If not, it's a different story. את נהנית לי עד הפסח, if he said, benefit from me until Pesach, אם הולכת את לבית אביך עד החג, if you go to your father's house from now until the Chag, Chag is what? Festival of Sukkot, is forbidden to you. Unfortunately, Joe will tell us, right? How many years you married?
63.
Can 9 horror. 63 years. How do you like that? I'm a baby. I married 30 years.
Right.
Right? Anyway, so you know, sometimes you have to say what? Honey, you're right,
You're
right?
right. Now you always say she's right.
You're right. Anyway, so how many years you married, Gilbert?
Safe.
How many years you married? 10?
Yeah, before.
10. All right. So anyway, until the festival of Sukkot is forbidden for you. Chag in general, you know, when we use the word Chag is Sukkot. Remember, right? So here is the idea. Halcha lifnei HaPesach. If she went to his house before Pesach, אסורה בהנאתו עד הפסח. She is prohibited for her to derive benefit from him until Pesach. Why? Because you have Chalot Neder. It's fulfilled his condition. So as long as that she went to her father's house, she doesn't need to have this Isurei Hana, that forbidden item, from her husband. But here you have the fulfillment of the T'nai, the condition. Now the Mishnah said, לאחר הפסח בבל יחל. If she derived benefit from him before Pesach and went to visit her father after Pesach, so basically she is liable for violation of the prohibition. The Torah said, he shall not profane his words. That's in the book of Numbers, chapter 30. So that's, the Meforshim explain that that's also what we call retroactive act, is the yesh breira. Remember the yesh breira and en breira? So here is overet lemafreya, it's retroactively. Because if you remember when we study page 15, we have the disputation between Rav Nachman and Rav Yehuda, if a person can do this type of prohibition in order later on he will be careful from doing something. So we have a big discussion over this subject of Bal Yachel. So here, lechatchila, the way that we wish, the way that it should be, she should avoid from deriving benefit from her husband until Pesach. Now, If it's just the total opposite, they are between Sukkot, between the Chag and Pesach, and the person said to his wife, She'at nehelnet li ad Chag, he said that which you might benefit from me is konam to you until the Chag. Chag is what? Festival of Sukkot. Im olechet at leveit avich ad Pesach, if you go to your dead house from now until Pesach, right? Especially young couples, it's always sensitive with the in-laws. So sometimes the husband said to her, they're so upsetting me, I don't want you to go there. You ever heard that, Gilbert? Right? So here, the husband used his right to prohibit her. Right? Problem. הלכה לפני הפסח, אסורה בהנאתו עד החג. If she went before Pesach, she is forbidden to derive benefit from him until the festival of Sukkot. Why? Because you have the kiyum atnai, the fulfillment of the conditions, and you have the chalot neder, you have the matter of vow fulfilled. But anyway, umuteret leilech achar Pesach. Since the neder, the condition was not until the after Pesach, shall she allow to go to her father's house after Pesach. So the Ran elaborates how far is it with this, but there is a book called Mas'at Binyamin, and you see it also Rabbeinu Yerucham have a discussion. There's two people argue over something, Reuven and Shimon. And Reuven said to Shimon, you know what? If I am wrong, I'll give $100 to tzedakah. Now he turns to be wrong. Is he obligated to give $100 to tzedakah? What do you think? What?
I would say yes.
Yes?
Yes.
So it's not so simple. Why? We learn many times the concept of asmachta. Remember asmachta? Asmachta lokanya, which means if you said, if I get better, I will give $100. So basically the $100 is part of the panacea, part of the healing. You like place before the doctor's appointment, you paid in advance, in that sense. But here you said, if I'm right. So it's not real deal, it's not real conditional deal. So there is a notion, Rabbeinu Yerucham said based on this Mishnah, that it's asmachta. But as I said, it's a big subject, how far you go with this type of commitment. If you said, if I get better, that's one thing. But if you said, if I'm wrong, I will give, it's not so simple. Anyway, haomer leishto, if someone said to his wife, the Gemara, konam maaseh yadaych alai, he said, your handicraft is konam upon me. Meaning, whatever you gain, it's konam upon me. So the Rambam in Ilchot Nedarim chapter 5 said, with regard to one who says to his wife, your handicap is konam upon me, or it is konam upon my mouth, or a similar formulation, items from which they are exchanged and the growth are forbidden. If he said your handicraft is konam for me only in the sense of what I will not eat from it or that I will not taste from it, if it is an item whose seed cease, it is permitted for him to partake of items for which he is exchanged and the growth. If its seed do not cease, even the growth of the growth are forbidden. So here Gemarrah said, konam hen alai, konam hen lefi. So Yishmael, איש כפר ימה ואמרי לה איש כפר דימה או כפר דיימה תוספות צא, העלה בידו בצל שעקרו בשביעית. So you have here an onion that he uprooted during the sabbatical year. So it's the sanctified with the sanctity of the Shemitah, the sabbatical year. It's called Kedushat Shvi'it. As you know, in Eretz Israel, whatever comes out of the Shemitah, there is a sanctity, there is limitations how far you can use. For example, you cannot give it to an animal. It carry kedusha. You need to bi'ur, you need to get rid in some way some of them. So when it's come to a fruit of a tree, for example, you go achrei chanitat apri. How do you planted them? When it's come to perot, to vegetables, you go by lekita, the way that you collected. So onion that comes from the ground, it carried the sanctity of Kedushat Shvi'it, of the sabbatical year. So they said, unta'o bashminit. So what happened is, he then planted it during the 8th year. Verabu gidulav al ikaro. So here you have an issue that its growth developed at the 8th year exceeded its principal original sabbatical year, so that's more than it was. So as we said, the small onion, when you planted, its growth in both ways. You remember that? So that's Rashi in Psachim 34. Remember, we talk about it. Sometimes it grows 6 times bigger than you planted. So v'hache kami bayale. So that's the question he asked. Gidula ve'ter ve'ikaro asu. You may say that the idea is that the 8th year growth is permitted and its sabbatical year principle is forbidden. Keivan derabu gidulav mi'ikaro, since its growth exceeded its principles. Otan gidulei heiter, so those that grow in a natural way, ma'alin et ha'isur lo. So they basically bring the prohibition, or they're not. Which means the onion doesn't have this Kedushat Shvi'i, the sanctity of the sabbatical year, and therefore you can use it. So the Chazon Ish said, and you see it also in Gemarrah in Tractate Menachot, that it's all depend upon where is the ikar, where is the essence, where is it coming from. So Ata lekarmei de Rabbi Ami, he came before Rabbi Ami and asked this question. Lo have beyadei. Rabbi Ami doesn't have a solution for him, how to reconcile this predicament. Ata lekarmei de Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. You went before Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Pashat lei min hada. He explained what, based on the Amar Rabbi Chanina Trita, Amar Rabbi Yanai. Batzal she truma shen ta'o. If you have an onion of something that is consecrated, is donated as a truma, and was planted, verabu gidulav al yikaro. So he said that if the growth exceeded its root, so he said, mutar, everything is permitted. It's not considering part of Isurei Truma. So even the growth is considering Tevel. So you can't eat a permanent meal until you separate a tithe. But since you have these abrogations, so you don't have a concern about the truma, and before you separate tithe, you can eat which called achilat arai, a temporary manner of eating. That's the same as tevel, and you allow also to a non-kohen, to zarim, to use it. Anyway, So the Chazon Ish have a big malach in this. Anyway, they said here, Amar lei. So the Gemara said you cannot pasken halacha. You cannot go and follow the halacha by this way. Amar le Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah said to Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, Ve'itema Rabbi Zreika. The some said Rabbi Zreika who said it. Shavek mar tren ve'aved kechad. Did you, the sage, the master, abandon the opinion of two sages, conduct himself the view of one sage? Man ninhu train, who are the two sages that disagree with this view? Da'amar Rabbi Abahu amar Rabbi Yochanan, Yalda shesibcha bizkeina. If you have two trees, you have a young vine within 3 years of its planting, whose fruit are considering ola, because as we explained earlier, during the first 3 years, the Torah said in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 23, that the first 3 years of the fruits are prohibited, biblically speaking, because it's called orla. So someone cut it, and he combined it, he grafted, he planted with all together with the new, uva peirot. So he basically does the harkava, the grafted unto an old, which is the one who is permitted vine. Af al pi shehosifa matayim, even the fruits of the younger vine, even though the younger vine added 200 times number of the fruit that they were there when it was grafted. So if you have these additional fruits are permitted because they drew the nourishment from the oldest vine, the fruit that was the younger vine before it was grafted is forbidden. Why? Because again, you have here the idea of the combination of both. That even the principle, when the permitted part of the mixture is 200 times the forbidden olah, the prohibition is naturalized. So the forbidden fruits was there from the outset. Now, the Ran said that that's combination. It's the idea that it's you go by the ikar, by the essence, by where's the source of these fruits, where it's coming from. The second sage said, "V'amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Nachmani, amar Rabbi Yonatan, batzal shentao becherem." So he said, if an onion was planted in the vineyard and become forbidden as kil'aim, so that's called kil'ei kerem. If you have vegetables that grow together with the vine, so the Torah said in Deuteronomy 22 verse 9 that it's kil'ei kerem, it's a mixture and it's forbidden. V'ne'ekar hakerem, so that the vineyard was then uprooted and the onion continued to grow. Asur, the onion is nevertheless forbidden. So what do you see? The new growth cannot nullify the original forbidden roots. So the son-in-law of my teacher, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, said based on this, you can ask about the etrog tree. You have an etrog tree, you have the old one, and then you have the branches of the etrog that they are new one. So now what do? You combine the old and the new. So is that the issue or not? Based on this Gemarrah, you try to say that it may be present a problem because you have this mixture. Hadar, good morning. Hadar ata lekamei de Rabbi Ami. So Rabbi Ishmael came before Rabbi Ami second time. Ufashit lei min hadar. Da'amar Rabbi Yitzchak amar Rabbi Yochanan. Litra betzalim shetikna. If you have a litra is unit of weight. That's the Gemarrah in Bava Batra 89. So here Rashi said, over there Rashi said that the crop is new growth, and therefore you have the original onion, as we said, and the growth that's coming out. So he said, litra betzalim shetikna. If you have a litra of onion, untied onion, that one rectified. How? Because he tightened, he separated truma and maaser, and then uzra'a, and then he planted this onion in the ground. So now when he planted even the onion itself, it's not considering ezra'im, it's the onion. So therefore it's proper to say neti'ah, not zri'ah. But the Ran explains, since you basically scatter them the way you planted them in the ground, so that's the reason why I use this language. Use the language of shetikna uzra'ah. So he said mit'aseret lefi chula. You need to separate tight trumot u'maasrot according to it entirely. So basically you take the percentage separated for truma and maaser, and you take it and you make a measurement for the entire new crop, which is the new onion and the original litra. So it means that not only the consequences, even the original has to be even you already tightened it. Alma, so what you derive from that, otan gidulin mevatlin ikar, those growth naturalize the prohibition of primary original tightened onion. So they cause the onion to meaning that we have to separate truma from that onion. So and also maaser. So we derive from that the Rabbi Yochanan view is that any produce that it came in addition to the original one, so it's according to the way they grow. So if you have an onion that carry the sanctity of this sabbatical year, that you replanted again in the 8th year, so you don't say that the original planted carry kedusha shvi, the sanctity of the sabbatical year, and therefore if it's more than ikar, if it's more than original seed, it causes him to have a bitul berov. What is a bitul berov? Which means the majority over the minority. So even the minority is the root, but since the growth over the root, it's already the majority. So the Gemara rejected that and said, no, dilma lechumra shani. You can't prove from that. Why? Because the idea, when you have some produce that have more growth, you have to think what's the ikar and what is the tafel. The idea is, without the root, you can't have the rest. The root, the source, is the cause of the causes. So therefore, when you have the ikar, the root that is the centerpiece, the root, so therefore, the what's come out is like overlapping, but so if you have the onion for the sabbatical year, that you have a growth that come out of the 8 years, this is the big question, how far you go if they can so far we wouldn't reconcile it, because to naturalize the prohibition of the sabbatical year or truma, you have this quandary. In one hand you have the root, that is the minority, but it's the root. On the other hand you have the growth that is so much more, right, that overcome the roots, but it's still not the roots. So the Keren Orah is a book called Keren Orah. Based on this Gemara, I ask a question. We have two separate laws. We learn one law is called the law of Olah. Olah meaning the first 3 years when you're planting a tree, you cannot use this product. And you have the law of kil'aim. We explain that is the diverse kind. So when it's come to ola and kil'aim, it's different than truma. Why? So the Keren Orah explained that when it's come to ola and kil'aim, you have isurei ana'ah. Isurei ana'ah meaning you have a prohibition against driving benefit from that. So that's remain in effect. Versus the isurei truma, if something that is consecrated, you have isur achila, the prohibition against eating it. So if you replanted, and now it's grow like the new one, so you have this notion that Rabbe ala ikar, that it's overcome the original roots, and then you say that it's not in effect. So in short, they try to say that you cannot put a mechanism between ola and kil'aim and truma. It's two different things. The isur ana'ah, the prohibition against driving benefits, remains when it's ola and kil'aim. Versus in truma, the isur achila, the prohibition against eating it, is limited, because the moment you replanted, so you have the majority of the produce that over the roots, and then it's over. So it's a big ba'alach, it's a big discussion of the Keren Orah. I would like to share with you some halachot in conclusion. The first halacha is the one who says, this is the Shulchan Aruch Hilchot in Yoreh De'ah 2:16. He says, one who said, this produce is forbidden to me, or it is konam to my mouth, or any similar expression, he is prohibited from partaking not only of the produce itself, but of its replacements and growth as well. So, and for sure it's more so in the juice. So you cannot say that, oh, I have now the money that substitute the original items, I can use it. No. If you're forbidden item, it's any subsequent of that item. So if it's a fruit, or if it's exchange of money or anything else, it's already a part of that. He is likewise prohibited from partaking of the growth of its growth. If their seed so not perish, but if it's permitted to partake of the replacement of the replacement. Now, if one who said, this produce is konam for me, and for the reason I will not eat it, or for that reason I'll not taste it, if it was an item whose seed cease, it is permitted for him to partake of food for which it is exchanged of its growth. If its seeds do not cease, even the growth of its growth are forbidden. Liquids that emerge from the produce are forbidden due to uncertainty with regard to their status. Another halacha, if someone said to his wife a statement, as we said, David, you are not here earlier, but we said that those, especially young married, there's an issue with the in-laws. So sometimes the husband said to his wife, I don't want you to go to your dad, etc. So here is a case that he said, if a husband said to his wife, from that which you prepare, I will not eat until Pesach. Or anything that so they said, halacha is in Yoreh De'ah 2:20, that anything that she prepares is forbidden to him until Pesach, but afterward is permitted. However, if it said, from that which you prepare until Pesach, I will not eat, anything that she prepares until Pesach is forbidden to him forever. Or another thing, if one said to his wife, that you benefit from me until Pesach, if you go to your father's house until festival of Sukkot, is konam for me. And she went before Pesach, benefit from him is forbidden to her until Pesach. If she went after Pesach, after having derived benefit from him before Pesach, she has violated the prohibition. The Torah says, lo yachel dvaro, which is, he shall not profane his words. So the Rambam maintain that if it's man, he receive malkot. The other the vow, or the Ran and Hadar hold that that's applied to his wife. Now, if one says to his wife, benefit for me, he's konam for you until the festival. If you go to your father's house before Pesach, and she went and visited her father before Pesach, it is forbidden to her to derive benefit from him until Pesach. If she does so, he is liable by the Torah law to receive malkot, And after Pesach, though, it's permitted for her to visit her father's house. So you see here, you take this statement very seriously. Another halakha we learned. Good morning. They said in over there 292, if the branch of a sapling within the 3 years of planting, which we call olah, whose fruits is olah, was grafted unto the older tree, and the fruit of the younger plant grew, even the branch subsequently grow fruit in an amount more than 200 times the original olah, the fruit that grew on the younger vine before it was grafted remains forbidden, as the permitted growth does not naturalize the prohibition of the original fruits. That's the Rambam, Hilchot Maaser Sheni, chapter 10. So sometimes when you do this type of harkava, if you remember when we talk about the Arbaat Aminim, and we explain the difference in a Torgim, Murkav, Bilti Murkav, that's the idea that you grafted, you combined it. So also the Rambam said in Hilchot Kilaim, chapter 5, an onion that was planted in a vineyard is forbidden as forbidden mixture of fruit crop in a vineyard, even if the vineyard was later uprooted and the onion that sprouted from the original plant were 200 times those of the original plant. The original onion remained forbidden. So it's the permitted growth does not naturalize the prohibition. That's also Shulchan Aruch Yoredea 296. The last halakha is the Rambam, Hilchot Maasrot, chapter 6. We talk about litra. So he said the litra of onion that one tithed. So if trumot and tithes were properly separated from a litra of onions, and one sowed the entire litra and then sprouted, he must tithe the original onions along with the additional growth, as the growth naturalized the prohibition of the original onions.
Boyachem leshuloim malachai yeshuloim malachai